is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, and thank you for joining me for yet another video. Today, it is that time of the week once more, where we get our tips in ahead of another round of AFL action. But before we lock away our tips for round 16, we must take the time to reflect on round 15. And just like I have in previous weeks, we broke par. 7 games of football to tip, and we got 5 out of 7 correct. And I'm a little bit upset with the tips that I got incorrect, because I probably could have seen these coming if I had taken the time to reflect a little bit more on my selections prior to these games going down. So with that being said, let's dive into the recap of round 15's tips. It all kicked off at Optus Stadium on Thursday night with Fremantle hosting Essendon. I tipped Fremantle by 29 points. It ended up being a 41-point smacking. It was a percentage booster for Fremantle, and much needed percentage booster, I feel, given the situation with Fremantle on the ladder. They're going to be clumped up amongst a group of teams that are going to be competing for a top 8 spot, and I think setting yourself apart by getting a percentage boost is definitely going to take you a long way, especially for that final push come the back end of the season. So they picked up a much needed win, a much needed percentage booster, and it's on the back of the fact that Essendon, I feel, their injuries are just starting to become insurmountable. They lost Xavier Duursma through hamstring injury in this particular game. They already had no Ben Mackay. They already had no Mason Redman. They've still got no Kyle Langford. They've still got no Sam Draper. They're not big names by any means, but as far as Essendon's list goes, they are very integral and core components to the overall structure of Essendon's team. And teams like Fremantle are going to take advantage of that when the time comes. So they gave us our first tick of the weekend. But then when we go to GMHBA Stadium on Friday night, Geelong let us down in a very big way. Brisbane decided this was going to be the week that they're going to rock up and they're going to actually be a little bit more accurate in front of goal. And they changed hand with Geelong, who were incredibly inaccurate in front of goal. The fact that Geelong only managed to score 51 points in this game is very telltale to how off Geelong were in this game. We're not used to seeing a Geelong outfit score so low. We are not used to seeing a Geelong outfit so inaccurate in front of goal. And on the flip side, Brisbane, after losing to Adelaide and GWS back-to-back weeks because of inaccuracy, come out swinging for the fences and absolutely roll them by the tune of 41 points in this game as well. I thought a common trend was starting to develop here. I did say Geelong-Brisbane was going to be the game of the round, and in many retrospects, it did deliver to that caliber, but Geelong were just so far off the mark, it's not funny. And Brisbane re-establishing themselves as a true premiership threat, as a true genuine chance to go back-to-back and defend last year's premiership incredibly well. MCG, the following day, my roll of the dice tip worked, I suppose. I tipped North Melbourne to upset Carlton, and North Melbourne come through with the goods in a game where Carlton never looked like they were in it. Never looked like they were interested in winning. North Melbourne, especially in the second and third quarter, put on an absolute performance. Thankfully, they put too much of a gap on that it became a little bit too hard for Carlton to chase, because not scoring in the final quarter almost cost North Melbourne this game. Mitch McGovern, off of his own boot, brought Carlton back into this, and they only managed to fall over the line by 11 points. But we still got the tip correct. Our next blemish, and the only blemish remaining for the round, was tipping Port Adelaide over Sydney. I did so without knowing team lists, and this video will drop obviously with me knowing Thursday night's game's team, but we're not going to see teams for Friday, teams for the weekend, before this video is finished being recorded, edited, and then dropped for you guys at home. So when it comes to players coming in, players coming out, especially for players that are playing in the Saturday games, I've got no fucking idea what's going on. And had I known that Tom Papley was coming back, had I known that Joel Amadi was back in the mix, had I known that Errol Goulden would have been back, I actually would have tipped Sydney to win this game. However, I didn't. I backed Port Adelaide, and Port Adelaide ended up losing this by 19 points. It was very humbling, I feel, for Port Adelaide in a year that they have just been so behind the mark, and there's always one team that drops from the heavens and crashes out outside of the top 8. but Sydney has been that team as well. So these two teams really needed to pick up a win here to have any hope or any semblance of what their remainder of the 2025 season is going to look like. Sydney starting to show that they might actually have capabilities of scraping into the top 8 and maybe doing a little bit of damage. Port Adelaide, I think they're still a little bit too far behind that marker to make it, but we'll see what happens. We then had green lights all the way home, ladies and gentlemen. Marvel Stadium on Saturday night saw Collingwood absolutely touch up St Kilda, which was kind of ironic given the conversation point around Marcus Windhager having these quote-unquote scalps as a tagger, and I said it in the round recap video that I dropped earlier in the week. It's all good and proper to have a tagger tag players and take their individual influence out of a game, but if the opposition team is still winning, is that tag effective? Are you doing yourself a due service as a coach, having this player locked down while the rest of the opposition team is running around doing what they want to do best? Marcus Windhager went to Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos, in my opinion, was best on ground. So let's just put it that way. You have 30 touches, you have 9 odd score involvements, you kick a goal yourself, you have plenty of clearances, you're feeding the ball inside 50. Definitely didn't lock down Nick Dacos, and Nick Dacos proving sometimes the best can't be kept down. GWS beat the Gold Coast in a thriller, in a game where the Gold Coast led all of the way until GWS decided to turn it up in the final moments, with Jake Stringer, of all players, kicking the ceiling goal late in the game. It was actually a great shot on goal too. I'll give him credit where it's due. That was package. It was fucking good. And the final game of the round, no surprise, Bulldogs absolutely belted my boys in Richmond down at Marvel Stadium. Not much shining light to cling on to for Richmond fans out of this game. This was an absolute obliteration. Sam Darcy, out of the game for X amount of months and comes back in the last 2 games, has been absolutely impressive. Marcus Bontempelli wound back the clock. Ed Richards was sensational. Tim English was just being fucking silly with the ball around the ground, and Nankervis didn't know what to fucking do. So that's how we went for round 15. 5 out of 7. However, ladies and gentlemen, we had a perfect round tipped in the competition this week, and it's been a hot minute since that's happened, so we're going to take the time to congratulate. It is Rocky F, Melb PFV, that tipped 7 out of 7. As I said, it has been a hot minute since we have had a perfect tipping round tipped. So, sir, congratulations to you. Special mention as well to Yarravilla and JR Jokers for tipping the near perfect 6 out of 7. But when it comes to total tips, no surprise here, it is Lana S, Skyvo, still leading the way by a total of 3 tips ahead of the next best on 95. We then have Gramercy Riffs, Jazz Sky 13, Beanos, and Macca0303, all equally tied on 92 votes, rounding out our top 5, with our top 10 rounded out with Nado, Frio90, MRL from PA, Princess Cahill, and Sean AE. Congratulations again to Lana for holding down the top of the leaderboard for another week. Congratulations to my top 10. Thank you to everybody that is continuing to tip and join in this competition. I'm 34 out of 48. I said maybe top 20 breaking into would be a good thing for me right here. Top 20, I'd need 85. I'm currently sitting on 80. I'm still 5 tips away from the top 20. It's not been my year. It has not been my year. The start of the year killed me severely, but maybe this week we can throw some spanners in the works to make our way up the board. Just a little bit. It is all kicking off Thursday night football. Port Adelaide hosting Carlton. I am tipping Port Adelaide to win this game at home, and they are going to do so to the tune of, let's go 21 points. I just think, even though Port Adelaide was soundly defeated by Sydney were very inaccurate in front of goal, so that should have been an absolute drubbing. But on the same token, Port Adelaide were very inaccurate in front of goal as well, and they could have, bridged that gap a hell of a lot. Carlton, on the other hand, absolutely dismantled by North Melbourne, and I feel they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, but Port Adelaide are in the same boat, and I feel the fact that Port Adelaide are able to fire back-to-back out of Adelaide Oval, they're not going to let 2 games on their home deck slip out of their hands, and I think they're going to get this job done quite comfortably. Patrick Cripps has been reported to be ill. He has been named to play. Would not be out of the realm of possibility to see a late out here, especially if he has been quarantined away from the playing group due to this illness. So keep a close eye on that. But I'm backing Port Adelaide by 21 to kick off round 16. We then shift attention to Friday night football. SCG, Sydney Bulldogs. Hard to see Sydney beating the Bulldogs here. Sydney getting Errol Goulden back, getting Papley back, Joel Amadi back, all these pieces starting to fall back together again for Sydney. This is a game that they must win if they want to keep finals hopes well and truly alive. This is the time for the Bulldogs to start getting scalps against more admirable opponents, because up until now, they have only defeated GWS, the only team so far currently within the top 8 figuration that have lost to the Bulldogs. Bulldogs have only flat track bullied everybody underneath them outside of GWS. So even though Sydney is technically still underneath the Bulldogs, Sydney you can still count as a finals threat, a finals playing team, a more admirable team in the way of list and, you know, players available and circumstances. This is going to be a great game of football, but I'm backing the Dogs to get it done by at least 4 goals. The first on Saturday afternoon sees Gold Coast hosting Melbourne at People's First Stadium. Melbourne coming off of the bye, Gold Coast coming off of a very hard-fought loss against GWS, losing it late in the game. Back at People's First, they are incredibly hard to beat. I've said that time and time again. They very rarely lose at this ground. I think Melbourne coming off of the bye could be a little bit detrimental to them, considering some of the circumstances we've seen with player fitness and stuff going on at Melbourne. Gold Coast are going to come out firing in this game. No surprise that even though they lost last week, players like Anderson, Rao, Miller, they were all still the top-ranked players on the field. And I feel if they come out playing as big of a game as they played against GWS, they are going to absolutely squash Melbourne. We then head on down to the University of Tasmania Stadium with Hawthorn hosting North Melbourne. And this is going to be more of a cracking game than what people are going to be giving it credit for. Hawthorn, one of those teams coming off of the bye. North Melbourne, just coming off of a scalp against Carlton. So there's going to be belief in this team. There's going to be confidence in this team. Both of these teams this year have played well in Tasmania. So it's going to be an absolute belter to see these teams go head to head. At this point in time, I am going to lock in Hawthorn. When I see the team lists revealed, I might shift to North Melbourne as a bit of an outside chance, because I very much loved the run and carry of North Melbourne last week. Their rebound work off of half-back was sensational, and I think their run and carry can match that of Hawthorn. The only difference being, I feel Hawthorn are going to be too much to be able to be squashed in forward half comparatively to North Melbourne's forward half. I think they can shut down Jack Darling. I think they can shut down Nick Larkey, and then they'll still have a player or two floating around as that loose intercepting player. So I think that's where the battle is going to be won and lost. I think defensively Hawthorn are more sound, but I could change my tip later on in the week just depending on how things land. But Hawthorn is a safe tip here, I feel. Collingwood, West Coast Eagles, Marvel Stadium. This is back-to-back weeks where Collingwood have played home games at Marvel. This is very interesting. I don't see West Coast upsetting Collingwood here. I said it against Brisbane last week in way of Geelong, saying I don't know when Geelong are going to lose their next game. Who's going to be the team to knock them off? And then Brisbane came out and made them look fucking stupid. St Kilda pushed Collingwood for a little bit, but then Collingwood broke away. And I still feel Collingwood are the standard bearer. They are the best team in the competition. They are not going to let a game fumble against a team like West Coast, especially with West Coast having to travel to Melbourne, coming off of the back of a bye as well. Very big ask. Very big ask. And I think Nick Dacos, again, 30 plus, kicks 2 goals, and I'm going to say 8 score involvements. He's going to be all over the ground. They're not going to be able to stop him, and he's going to be one of the sole catalysts that push this game over the line. Still Sidebottom's going to have an insane amount. We're going to have, I reckon, 20 plus from Still Sidebottom, 25 plus from Josh Dacos. We're going to have 30 plus from Nick Dacos. I think Jamie Elliott's going to kick 4. Bobby Hill's going to kick 2. It's going to be insane. This could be an absolute bloodbath. 2 games on Sunday, the first of which is at the MCG with Richmond hosting Adelaide. Adelaide, one of those teams coming off of the bye. Will it be detrimental to them? I don't know. Coming up against a young Richmond side, they should absolutely obliterate us. But this is the type of game where Richmond rise to the occasion and could scalp a win. They get absolutely belted by the Bulldogs last week, but then they come out a following week, and could they do it? We've seen it happen before. We've seen the bounce back. I'm going to tip Adelaide, as much as I would love to tip Richmond here. Going off of it, I need to tip at least 5 to stay in the minimum 5. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a lock there. So maybe I could change it. Again, looking at team circumstances, we'll see how it goes. But Adelaide should win this quite comfortably. They're a very potent forward line. Ben Miller should be able to play on Riley Thilthorpe and keep him quiet. But then you've still got Tex Walker. You've still got Josh Rochelle. You've got Ben Keys. You've still got Luke Pedler every now and again. Jordan Dawson has been insane in the midfield. Rory Laird has been insane off of half-back. I don't see how Richmond win this, but if they want to upset my tips this week and throw a spanner in the works by winning, feel free, boys, feel free. Final game of the round, Optus Stadium, Fremantle hosting St Kilda. We have seen this play out before. Down in Melbourne with Fremantle, absolutely. Was it Fremantle that was absolutely whitewashing St Kilda in that game? I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Anyway, I don't see Fremantle losing here. They're on a roll. They're playing good football. They're going to be hard to stop, and I don't think St Kilda on the road are going to be the ones to stop them. That is my tips for the round. We are looking at Port Adelaide, Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Adelaide, and Fremantle. Quickly having a look at the Gauntlet tracker. There is a little over 5,600 people left out of 83,000. We are still alive. We've got to make a decision here as to who we tip. We're tipping Fremantle, so it's stupid to go St Kilda. So here we're either looking at locking away Port Adelaide for a win or Hawthorn for a win. I think smart play here is to lock up Port Adelaide. I am more confident in Port Adelaide winning than I am Hawthorn winning. If I lose at this point in time with the Gauntlet, that is okay, but that is going to leave us with St Kilda, Hawthorn, Sydney, and Carlton as our final, teams that can be tipped. And Carlton have a couple of games on the run home that I think they can pick up a nice scalp with. I'm pretty sure they play West Coast again, so that would be a good way to go. Sydney, I think they're going to pick up some wins on the run home. Hawthorn definitely will. West Coast is a team we haven't tipped yet as well. We should have done so when they beat St Kilda, because I tipped West Coast that round. I don't understand why, but anyway. And then we've still got St Kilda, so it's going to be very interesting. But that is going to wrap us up for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me as always. If you have enjoyed the content I put out, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. If you've got any ideas for content you would like to see, please chime out in the comments down below as well. I would hugely appreciate it. And hit that notification bell as well, so whenever I upload, you get that ring-a-ding-ding at home to tell you something new has gone down and to come and check it out. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, provided they are playing, of course. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.